There's something utterly mesmerizing about standing in the shadow of an ancient city, looking up at the night sky, and realizing every stone, every pathway, every towering monument was placed with celestial precision. These aren't just random layouts, they're cosmic blueprints, meticulously designed to mirror the heavens above. From the pyramids of Giza to the temples of Angkor Wat, entire civilizations poured their knowledge, their faith, and their ambition into building what we now call celestial chessboards. But why? What drove them to align their world with the stars? And what can these ancient marvels teach us about humanity's endless quest to touch the sky? Picture this, a city where the streets don't just lead to markets or palaces, they point to the rising of Sirius, the belt of Orion, or the solstice sun. These weren't just architectural feats, they were acts of defiance, a way for earthbound humans to challenge the gods themselves. The builders of these celestial chessboards didn't just observe the stars, they wove them into the very fabric of daily life, turning their cities into living observatories. The precision is staggering. Without modern tools, without satellites or computers, they mapped the heavens onto the Earth with an accuracy that still leaves scientists in awe today. How did they do it? What secrets did they know that we've forgotten? This is more than just a story of stones and stars. It's a tale of human ingenuity, of civilizations reaching beyond their grasp to leave a mark on eternity. Across continents and millennia, from the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Mesoamerica, these celestial alignments whisper a universal truth: we've always been star chasers. And as we unravel the mysteries of these celestial chessboards, we're not just decoding the past, we're rediscovering a part of ourselves. So let's step into this cosmic puzzle together, tracing the lines between Earth and sky, and uncovering the hidden wisdom of those who dared to build cities that could dance with the stars. To understand the genius of celestial chessboards, we have to step back into a world where the sky wasn't just a backdrop, it was a map, a clock, and a divine script all at once. Imagine standing in the heart of Teotihuacan, where the Avenue of the Dead doesn't just run north to south. It points directly to the Pleiades star cluster, a celestial marker of immense significance to the builders. Or consider the Great Pyramid of Giza, positioned with such exactitude that its sides align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, a feat that would challenge even modern engineers. These weren't happy accidents, they were deliberate, calculated acts of cosmic mimicry. What's truly astonishing is the sheer consistency of this practice across cultures separated by oceans and centuries. The ancient Egyptians, the Maya, the builders of Stonehenge, all of them shared an unshakable belief that the heavens held the key to earthly order. For them, aligning a temple to the solstice sunrise or a city grid to the path of Venus wasn't just architecture, it was a sacred dialogue with the universe. They saw patterns in the stars' cycles of time, omens of fortune, even the whims of the gods, and they etched those patterns into the very ground beneath their feet. But how did they pull it off? Without telescopes, without satellites, how did ancient astronomers chart the skies with such pinpoint accuracy? The answer lies in patient generations of sky watchers tracking the slow dance of celestial bodies, passing down their knowledge through oral traditions, carvings, and sacred texts. They used simple tools, shadow-casting obelisks, aligned sightlines, even pools of water as reflective observatories, and they had time centuries of it to refine their measurements until the earthly and the celestial locked into perfect harmony. This wasn't just science, though. It was spirituality in motion. When the Maya built El Castillo at Chichen Itza to cast a serpent-shaped shadow during the equinoxes, or when the Egyptians oriented the temple of Amun-Ra so the rising sun flooded the inner sanctum on specific dates, they were doing more than showing off their math skills. They were creating portals, moments where heaven and earth touched, where the divine became tangible. These celestial chessboards weren't just games, they were prayers in stone, a way for mortals to claim their place in the grand cosmic story. And perhaps that's the most humbling lesson of all. In a world obsessed with speed and innovation, these ancient marvels remind us that some truths are timeless. The stars they tracked are the same ones we see today. The solstices they celebrated still mark our seasons. Their celestial chessboards endure not just as ruins but as invitations to look up, to wonder, and to remember that we, too, are part of something infinitely larger. The pyramids of Giza don't just dominate the desert skyline, they whisper secrets etched in stone and stars. Look closely at their layout and you'll see it. The three great pyramids arranged with mathematical precision to mirror the stars of Orion's belt. But this cosmic mimicry runs deeper than mere alignment. For the ancient Egyptians, the Nile wasn't just a river, it was the earthly twin of the Milky Way, a shimmering highway between the world of the living and the realm of the gods. Every temple, every tomb, every towering obelisk was placed like a piece on a celestial chessboard, each move calculated to maintain balance between heaven and earth. Take the Temple of Karnak, where the rising sun on the winter solstice would pierce through the towering gateway, flooding the inner sanctum with golden light. This wasn't just a light show, it was a divine handshake, a moment when the sun god Ra renewed his covenant with humanity. Even the pyramid's air shafts, once thought to be simple ventilation channels, point directly to key stars like Sirius and Alpha Draconis, acting as stone telescopes guiding the pharaoh's soul to the afterlife. The precision is mind-bending. Without satellites or GPS, the builders achieved alignments accurate to within fractions of a degree. How? The answer lies in their obsession with time. The Egyptians didn't just track days, they mapped the heavens with star clocks, intricate diagrams carved into coffin lids that helped priests predict celestial events. They used Merkits, simple plumb line tools, to chart the night sky with astonishing accuracy. And hidden within temple walls, astronomers kept precise records of lunar cycles and planetary movements, turning sacred architecture into a living observatory. At Abu Simbel, the sun's rays penetrate the temple's deepest chamber just twice a year, illuminating statues of gods seated in darkness, a feat requiring generations of sky-watching knowledge. But here's the real revelation. These celestial blueprints weren't static. When the stars drifted due to Earth's wobble over centuries, a phenomenon called precession, the Egyptians adapted. Later temples shifted alignments to match the changing skies, proving their celestial chess game was always evolving. Even the Great Pyramid's original gleaming casing stones, now lost to time, may have reflected constellations like a giant mirror, blurring the line between Earth and sky. What does this tell us? That ancient Egypt's greatest monuments weren't just tombs or temples, they were star maps in stone, encrypted with knowledge we're still deciphering. From the Dendera zodiac ceiling mapping the heavens to the unopened chambers rumored to lie beneath the Sphinx, each discovery hints at a civilization that didn't just gaze at the stars, they built a world to meet them halfway. And as modern astronomers use infrared scans to uncover hidden passages aligned with celestial events, we're left wondering how many more of their cosmic secrets remain locked in the sand. Rising from the Salisbury Plain like a frozen celestial dance, Stonehenge has puzzled historians for centuries, but one thing is certain: its stones don't just stand in silence. They sing the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. When dawn breaks on the summer solstice, sunlight pours perfectly through the heel stone, slicing the monument in half with golden precision. Come winter solstice, the setting sun aligns with the central altar, marking the year's darkest day. These aren't coincidences. They're proof that 5,000 years ago, Neolithic builders engineered a stone calendar with breathtaking accuracy. Yet the solstice alignments are just the beginning. Look closer, and you'll find lunar mysteries carved into the landscape. The station stone's 4 markers forming a rectangle around the main circle align with the moon's extreme rising and setting points during its 18.6-year cycle. Even more astonishing, the 56 Aubrey holes encircling Stonehenge may have been used to predict eclipses, with priests moving markers to track the moon's erratic dance. Imagine the patience required, generations watching, recording, and refining their knowledge without a single written word. But Stonehenge wasn't an isolated monument. It's the crown jewel of a vast cosmic tapestry. The avenue, a processional path leading to the river Avon, mirrors the Milky Way's path across the sky. Nearby burial mounds cluster like constellations, their positions mirroring star patterns the builders revered. Even the surrounding cursus, a massive ceremonial trench, aligns with solstice sunrises, turning the entire landscape into a sacred stage for celestial events. So was it a temple or an observatory? The answer might be both. The same stones that framed the solstice sun also echoed with chants and rituals. Bones of sacrificed animals and ceremonial daggers found on-site suggest Stonehenge was where the earthly and divine collided. Perhaps its true purpose was to bind the two, using astronomy as a bridge between the seen and unseen. What's undeniable is the ambition behind these towering stones. Without metal tools or the wheel, Neolithic people quarried, shaped, and transported 80-ton monoliths across miles, all to capture the sky's rhythms in stone. They left us no scrolls or glyphs, but their message is clear. They believed the heavens held the secrets of life, death, and the seasons. And in that, Stonehenge isn't just a relic, it's a challenge. A reminder that long before telescopes, humans dared to map the cosmos with nothing but intuition, stone, and an unshakable resolve to reach beyond the earth. While the pyramids of Egypt and the stones of Stonehenge whisper of celestial alignments, Mesoamerica's ancient cities shout them from the rooftops. Take Teotihuacan, where the Avenue of the Dead doesn't just lead to the Pyramid of the Sun, it mirrors the Milky Way's path across the night sky. Every structure in this sprawling metropolis, from the Temple of the Feathered Serpent to the meticulously placed platforms, was positioned with the cosmos in mind. But this wasn't just about beauty or symbolism. For the Maya and Aztecs, the stars were a practical guide, dictating when to plant crops, when to hold sacred rituals, and even when to wage war. At Chichén Itzá, the Pyramid of Kukulcán transforms into a celestial timepiece during the equinoxes. As the sun sets, shadows slither down the steps like a diamond-backed serpent, a breathtaking representation of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent god descending to earth. This spectacle wasn't just theater, it marked the turning of seasons, signaling the arrival of rains critical for agriculture. The precision is staggering. The pyramid's 4 sides each have 91 steps, totaling 364 plus the platform at the top, making 365, a perfect solar year. Every detail was a calculation, a way to bind time and space together. But how did they achieve such accuracy without telescopes or modern tools? The answer lies in their codices, intricate bark paper books filled with astronomical observations. The Dresden Codex, for example, contains Venus tables so precise they could predict the planet's movements within a single day over 500 years. The Maya didn't just track Venus, they revered it, timing battles and coronations to its appearances. Their long-count calendar, spanning thousands of years, wove celestial cycles into a tapestry of myth and history, proving that for them, time wasn't linear, it was a sacred spiral. Even more fascinating is their use of cenotes, natural sinkholes, as celestial mirrors. At Chichen Itza, the sacred cenote wasn't just a water source, it was a portal. On certain nights, the reflection of the Pleiades cluster would shimmer on its surface, guiding priests in their rituals. The Maya believed these stars were the ancestors watching over them. And at Palenque, the Temple of the Inscriptions aligns with the winter solstice sunset, bathing Pakal the Great's tomb in golden light, as if the sun itself were honoring his journey to the underworld. This wasn't just stargazing, it was a dialogue with the universe. The Mesoamericans didn't build their cities to last centuries, they built them to converse with eternity. And as modern archaeologists decode their celestial blueprints, we're left with a humbling truth. These ancient sky watchers didn't just study the heavens. They wove them into the very stones beneath their feet, turning entire cities into clocks, calendars, and cathedrals of the cosmos. Stretching across the Cambodian jungle like a stone echo of the night sky, Angkor Wat doesn't just dominate the landscape, it mirrors the cosmos. While most visitors marvel at its towering spires and intricate bas-reliefs, few realize they're walking through a celestial map carved in sandstone. The entire complex aligns with uncanny precision to the constellation Draco, its central towers mirroring the dragon's winding form in the northern sky. But the celestial connections run far deeper. Surrounding temples like Pre-Con and Tarprom aren't randomly placed. They trace the same patterns as key stars in the Milky Way, transforming hundreds of square miles into a terrestrial replica of the heavens. The genius lies in the details. Angkor's vast moats aren't just defensive features, they reflect the cosmic ocean of Hindu mythology, with causeways aligned to solstice sunrises and lunar standstills. Even the temple's famous galleries double as astronomical instruments. During equinoxes, sunlight pierces precisely through window openings to illuminate specific carvings of celestial deities, turning stone corridors into a sacred light show. The builders didn't just observe the stars, they engineered ways to bring them down to Earth, blending architecture and astronomy into a single spiritual language. What's truly remarkable is how accurately they captured celestial motion. The temple's western orientation, unusual for Hindu structures, allows its central tower to frame the setting sun during summer solstice, while its bas-reliefs track the precession of equinoxes across millennia. Some scholars believe the entire Angkor complex encodes the Hindu concept of the cosmic Mount Meru, with its concentric terraces representing different realms of existence. The more we study its alignments, the clearer it becomes. This wasn't just a place of worship, it was a carefully calibrated machine for bridging worlds. The celestial symbolism permeates every carving. Apsara dancers frozen in stone aren't merely decorative, they personify stars, their positions matching real constellations during specific festivals. Scenes from the Hindu epic Mahabharata play out alongside accurate depictions of planetary conjunctions that would have been visible during Angkor's golden age. Even the temple's measurements hold cosmic significance. The length of its central corridor corresponds to the duration of the solar year when converted into sacred Khmer units. Modern technology has revealed even deeper layers to this cosmic blueprint. LiDAR scans show that Angkor's sprawling water management system, canals, reservoirs, and moats may have doubled as reflective surfaces for stargazing, turning the entire city into a giant observatory. During certain celestial events, the temple's reflection in these waters would have created the illusion of a floating celestial palace, blurring the line between earth and sky. Perhaps the most poignant detail lies in Angkor Wat's gradual decay. As the jungle reclaims its stones, the alignments still hold true. On winter solstice mornings, the rising sun slips through crumbling doorways just as it did 9 centuries ago, proving that while empires rise and fall, the conversation between stones and stars endures. The builders of Angkor didn't just construct a temple, they built a timeless bridge, inviting us to look up and remember that we, too, are part of this celestial dance. Plato's tale of Atlantis has captivated imaginations for millennia, but what if the lost city wasn't just a myth? What if it was a celestial cipher? The philosopher's description of concentric rings, alternating between water and land, doesn't just sound like a city. It mirrors the ancient concept of the cosmos as nested spheres with planets moving in perfect harmony. Some scholars argue Atlantis wasn't a place at all, but a metaphor for a civilization so attuned to the heavens that their very architecture echoed the dance of the stars. Imagine a society where temples aligned with solstices, where canals traced the paths of constellations, where every street was a ley line humming with cosmic energy. That's the tantalizing possibility buried beneath the legend. The parallels are too striking to ignore. From the step pyramids of Mesoamerica to the circular sanctuaries of Neolithic Europe, real-world ancient cultures built their sacred sites as microcosms of the universe. Take Santorini, the volcanic island often linked to Atlantis. Before its catastrophic eruption around 1600 BCE, the Minoan settlement of Akrotiri boasted advanced drainage systems and frescoes depicting celestial events. Its layout, a central plaza with radiating streets, bears an uncanny resemblance to Plato's rings. Was this the inspiration? Or consider the Azores, where underwater rock formations off the coast of Portugal hint at human-made structures now swallowed by the sea. Sonar scans reveal geometric patterns that align with celestial events, fueling speculation that these could be remnants of a maritime culture that mapped the stars onto their island home. But here's the twist. Plato's Atlantis might not point to a single location, but to a recurring architectural archetype. Across the ancient world, from the circular city of Baghdad to the mandala-like designs of Cambodian temples, builders replicated cosmic order in stone and water. The Mayan city of Chaltén, for instance, features a causeway that perfectly frames the rising sun during equinoxes, while its cenotes align with lunar standstills. These weren't coincidences, they were deliberate acts of celestial mimicry, a way to anchor human existence to the rhythms of the universe. Perhaps Atlantis's greatest legacy isn't a sunken city, but the idea itself, a reminder that the most enduring civilizations are those that reach for the stars, literally and metaphorically. Whether Plato's story was history, allegory, or both, it challenges us to look deeper. Every time we uncover another ancient site aligned with solstices or encoded with astronomical knowledge, we're piecing together a global puzzle, one that suggests our ancestors didn't just admire the heavens. They built their world in its image, leaving behind not just ruins, but invitations to rediscover the cosmic conversation etched into the very bones of the earth. In the heart of Beijing, the Forbidden City stands as a frozen echo of the night sky, its sprawling courtyards and crimson walls arranged with celestial precision. This wasn't just imperial grandeur, it was a deliberate act of cosmic mimicry. Every gate, every hall, even the throne itself aligned with the North Star, the unmoving pivot around which the heavens revolved. For China's emperors ruling as the sons of heaven, urban planning wasn't about convenience or aesthetics. It was a sacred duty to mirror the celestial order on earth, turning their capitals into living star charts where politics and astrology intertwined. Take Xi'an, the ancient Tang dynasty capital. Its grid of streets didn't just follow practical needs, they mapped the 12 celestial palaces of the Chinese zodiac, with each city gate corresponding to a zodiacal direction. The Mingtang, or Hall of Enlightenment, stood at the center, its circular shape symbolizing the heavens, while the square outer walls represented the earth. Here, emperors performed rituals timed to the solstices, their movements choreographed like celestial bodies in motion. Even the city's water systems were designed to reflect the Milky Way, channeling not just rivers but the flow of cosmic energy. The Forbidden City takes this cosmic blueprint even further. Its layout replicates the purple Forbidden Enclosure, the region of the sky surrounding the North Star, considered the celestial emperor's domain. The Meridian Gate faces due south, aligning with the summer solstice sunrise, while the Hall of Supreme Harmony sits precisely on Beijing's central axis, mirroring Polaris's unchanging position. Emperors didn't just rule from this axis, they embodied it, becoming the human anchor between heaven and earth. But how did ancient Chinese astronomers achieve such precision? Their tools were as ingenious as they were simple. The armillary sphere, a complex ringed instrument, tracked planetary movements with astonishing accuracy. Star maps like the Dunhuang Atlas, painted on silk centuries before European telescopes, detailed over 1,300 stars with meticulous care, and imperial astronomers kept daily logs of celestial events, from comets to eclipses, interpreting them as divine messages that shaped everything from tax policies to military campaigns. This wasn't just symbolism, it was a cosmic bureaucracy. The Ministry of Rites had an entire office dedicated to interpreting heavenly signs, while the emperor's decrees often referenced planetary alignments as justification for reforms. When a guest star, likely a supernova, appeared in 1054 AD, it triggered a wave of political changes as the court scrambled to realign earthly affairs with the disrupted heavens. Perhaps the most striking evidence of this celestial urban planning lies in the Temple of Heaven. Its circular altar of heaven, built without a single nail, was where emperors communicated directly with the cosmos during the winter solstice. The echo wall surrounding it wasn't just an acoustic marvel, it symbolized the reverberation of celestial harmony across the empire. And the three-tiered imperial vault, with its blue-tiled roof representing the sky, held stone tablets inscribed with star positions, as if the heavens themselves had been archived in jade and marble. What emerges from these alignments is a profound worldview, one where cities weren't just built on land, but on the scaffolding of the cosmos. From the zodiacal gates of Xi'an to the polar alignment of the Forbidden City, Chinese urban planners didn't just observe the stars, they wove them into the very fabric of power, creating capitals where every brick whispered of celestial order. And as modern astronomers rediscover ancient Chinese records of supernova and sunspots, we're reminded that these weren't just astrologers. They were architects of the universe, building bridges between earth and sky that still stand today. Walk through the winding lanes of Varanasi at dawn, and you're not just navigating a city, you're tracing a celestial blueprint. Every temple spire, every ghat leading to the Ganges, even the irregular-seeming alleyways were meticulously placed according to Vastu Shastra, an ancient architectural science that treated cities as living embodiments of cosmic order. The towering gopurams of South Indian temples don't just reach skyward, they point like stone arrows to specific constellations, while sacred tanks reflect not just moonlight but entire star patterns used to time rituals with celestial precision. This wasn't just spirituality, it was a science of alignment where geometry and astronomy merged into sacred urban design. Take the Kashi Vishwanath Temple, its golden spire positioned so precisely that the summer solstice sun aligns with its axis, flooding the inner sanctum with light. Or consider Madurai's Meenakshi Temple, where the layout mirrors a mandala, a geometric representation of the universe, with concentric corridors symbolizing the orbits of planets. Even the seemingly chaotic streets of Varanasi follow a hidden logic. They form a giant yantra, a mystical diagram believed to channel cosmic energy. The city's famous Panchakroshi Yatra, a sacred pilgrimage route, spans exactly 88 kilometers, a number deeply significant in Vedic astronomy, mirroring the 88 constellations recognized in ancient Indian star catalogues. But the real genius lies in how Vedic architects integrated time into their structures. The sun's annual journey through the zodiac didn't just inspire rituals, it dictated building orientation. Temples dedicated to Surya, the sun god, like Konark's iconic chariot-shaped marvel, were designed so that dawn light would strike specific carvings only on equinoxes, turning stone into a solar calendar. Water tanks like Pushkarini weren't merely reservoirs. Their steps and shadows acted as gnomons, marking solstices and lunar phases when observed from designated vantage points. Modern researchers using 3D modeling have uncovered even deeper layers to this celestial code. The Brihadiswara temple in Thanjavur, built 1,000 years ago, encodes the speed of light in its dimensions when converted to traditional units of measurement. The temple's shadow famously never touches the ground at noon, a feat requiring astronomical calculations so precise they still baffle engineers today. Meanwhile, the stepped wells of Gujarat, like Rani Kai Vav, double as inverted observatories. Their descending staircases frame specific stars when viewed from certain angles, turning underground architecture into a celestial map. What emerges is a civilization that didn't just build structures, they engineered portals between earth and sky. The Vedas speak of nakshatra vithai, star paths mirrored in processional routes, while city gates aligned with lunar mansions to harness their perceived energies. Even today, priests in temples like Dwarkadhish perform rituals timed to Jupiter's transit, maintaining a tradition of celestial synchronization that stretches back millennia. These weren't arbitrary traditions, they were part of a grand cosmic calculus where every brick laid was a star chart, every courtyard a reflection of the heavens. Perhaps the most profound lesson lies in the fluidity of these alignments. As precession slowly shifted the stars over centuries, Vedic astronomers adapted, realigning rituals, modifying temple entrances, even adjusting city expansions to maintain harmony with the changing skies. Their celestial chessboard wasn't static, it evolved with the universe itself, a testament to a culture that saw time not as linear, but as a spiral dance of Earth and cosmos. And as archaeologists now rediscover these alignments using satellite imaging and archaeoastronomy, we're left with a humbling realization. These ancient builders didn't just gaze at the stars, they wove them into the very fabric of daily life, creating cities that didn't just stand beneath the heavens, but conversed with them. Hidden in the rose-red cliffs of Jordan, Petra's towering facades don't just dazzle the eye, they track the heavens with uncanny precision. The Nabateans, those master traders who turned this desert gorge into a thriving metropolis, didn't just carve tombs into rock, they chiseled the cosmos itself into sandstone. Take the iconic treasury, its upper urn glittering with gold leaf remnants. On the summer solstice, the rising sun strikes it at exactly the angle needed to ignite its surface like a beacon, while the winter solstice sunlight slips through a narrow crevice to illuminate the statue of the goddess Isis inside. These aren't accidents of architecture, they're deliberate acts of celestial engineering, turning stone into a solar calendar, but the alignments run deeper than single buildings. Petra's entire urban plan seems to mirror the stars. The Sikh, that dramatic winding canyon leading into the city, isn't just a natural wonder. It's oriented so that during the equinoxes, sunlight pours straight down its length, casting no shadows on the path. Nearby, the monastery's massive doorway frames the setting sun during key agricultural dates, signaling planting and harvest seasons to Nabatean farmers. Even their ingenious water channels snaking through cliffs to sustain the desert city follow patterns that echo the Milky Way's path across the night sky. What's truly fascinating is how the Nabateans merged practicality with spirituality. Their altars atop Jebel Madba, the Mountain of Sacrifice, align with the rising of Sirius, the star whose heliacal appearance marked the annual flooding of the Nile, an event critical to their trade networks. Star niches carved into tomb walls may have served as navigational aids for desert caravans, while hidden chambers beneath the city resonate at frequencies that amplify celestial observations. This wasn't just stargazing, it was a survival strategy where knowing the skies meant controlling trade routes and predicting scarce water sources. Modern archaeoastronomers have discovered even more startling connections. The positions of Petra's major monuments match the brightest stars in the constellation Orion when viewed from specific high-altitude vantage points. The Qasr al-Bint temple aligns with the Pleiades clusters rising, an event linked to Nabatean New Year celebrations, and in the depths of the Snake Monument, a shaft carved into rock targets the pole star, suggesting the Nabateans may have used it to calibrate their celestial maps over centuries. The question isn't whether Petra had celestial significance, it's how deeply that significance was woven into daily life. From the way sunlight dances across zodiac carvings in the royal tombs to the star-shaped apertures that cast constellations onto temple floors, this was a city that didn't just observe the cosmos. It lived in active dialogue with it, turning every solstice and equinox into a sacred performance where architecture and astronomy became one. And as laser scans now reveal previously unknown chambers aligned with lunar cycles, we're left wondering, how many more of Petra's celestial secrets remain locked in its rose-red stone, waiting for the right sunbeam to reveal them? High in the Andes, where the clouds cling to stone, Machu Picchu's Intihuatana stone stands as a silent sentinel to the cosmos, a solar clock carved with such precision that during equinoxes, it casts no shadow at all. This wasn't just a timekeeping device, it was the axis of the Inca universe, a stone umbilical cord tethering Earth to the heavens. But the celestial genius of the Inca didn't stop at one sacred stone. Their entire empire pulsed with cosmic intentionality. Cusco, the navel of their world, wasn't just a city, it was a colossal puma stretched across the landscape, its main arteries aligned to the sun's path like golden threads woven into the mountains. The Coricancha, their sun temple, once lined with sheets of gold, reflected sunlight onto polished stone channels, creating rivers of liquid fire during solstice ceremonies. What's staggering is how they mapped the stars onto such unforgiving terrain. The Inca didn't have written records as we know them. Instead, they had quippus, intricate knotted cords that may have encoded astronomical data alongside stories and census counts. Their empire, Tawantinsuyu, the land of the four quarters, mirrored the Milky Way's division into four streams in Inca cosmology. Sacred sect lines, invisible energy pathways radiating from Cusco, connected hundreds of Huacas shrines in alignments that tracked lunar cycles and planetary movements. These weren't random shrines, they formed a sprawling observatory with mountaintop markers acting as natural sextants to predict eclipses and equinoxes. Consider the precision of Moray's concentric terraces, not just agricultural experiments, but possibly giant solstice markers, with temperature variations between levels mirroring different ecological zones. Or the cliff-carved window at Lactapota, which frames the winter solstice sunrise over Machu Picchu's highest peak, turning the entire valley into a celestial theater. Even their roads, stretching 25,000 miles, followed astronomical alignments, with way stations positioned to observe key stars for navigation. The Inca's secret, a mastery of both horizon astronomy and oral tradition. Their astronomers, the Upana, used simple tools, shadow casting pillars, reflective pools, and the human eye to track Venus's 8-year cycle or the Pleiades' heliacal rising, which dictated planting seasons. They saw the dark constellations in the Milky Way's dust clouds, weaving them into myths that guided their rituals. When Spanish chroniclers recorded that Inca rulers consulted the stars before battles, they weren't speaking metaphorically. They were describing a civilization that governed by celestial decree. Today, as archaeologists rediscover these alignments using 3D mapping, we're piecing together a lost science. The Inca didn't just build cities, they sculpted landscapes into cosmic mirrors, turning the Andes into a sacred dial where every peak, every stone whispered the language of the stars. And perhaps that's their greatest lesson, that even without telescopes or written records, humanity can chart the heavens with nothing but patience, stone, and an unshakable conviction that earth and sky are meant to dance together. Rising from the Mesopotamian plains like a stairway to the gods, Babylon's Etemenanke ziggurat wasn't just an architectural marvel, it was a celestial compass. Each of its 7 terraced levels, painted in the colors of the planets, aligned precisely with the cardinal directions, transforming the tower into a colossal sundial and observatory. At its summit, priests tracked the movements of Venus with an accuracy that still astonishes astronomers today. This wasn't just a temple, it was a bridge between earth and sky, a declaration that Babylon's empire stretched beyond the horizon and into the stars. But the cosmic connections didn't end there. The Ishtar Gate, with its cobalt blue tiles and golden celestial symbols, was more than a grand entrance, it was a portal to the heavens. Lions representing Ishtar, the goddess of Venus, prowled alongside bulls symbolizing Adad, the storm god linked to thunderbolts in Babylonian astrology. Even the gate's orientation held meaning. Its processional way aligned with the rising of certain stars during the New Year festival, turning the city's streets into a stage for celestial theater. Every brick seemed to whisper the same ambition: Babylon wouldn't just rule the earth, it would mirror the cosmos. The proof lies in thousands of cuneiform tablets, meticulously recording lunar eclipses, planetary conjunctions, and star positions with mathematical precision. One tablet from the reign of King Amasajuka, dating back to the 17th century BCE, tracks Venus's 8-year cycle so accurately it's still used by modern astronomers to date ancient events. Another details the mul, a pin, a star catalogue dividing the sky into 3 celestial paths, mapping constellations with names like the Plough and the Jaw of the Bull. These weren't just observations, they were blueprints for a society that believed the stars dictated everything from harvests to the fate of kings. What's truly revealing is how deeply astronomy intertwined with daily life. Babylonian astrologer priests known as Letter 1E6 Dups Hachek Enuma Anu Enlil didn't just predict eclipses, they issued warnings to kings about celestial omens, advising when to wage war or sign treaties based on Jupiter's position. The Goal Year texts used planetary cycles to forecast weather and crop yields, while the Diram, a celestial almanac, guided temple rituals down to the hour. Even their units of measurement held cosmic significance. The Baru, a distance unit, matched the length of a degree of latitude, suggesting they may have grasped the Earth's curvature centuries before the Greeks. This was more than science or superstition, it was a worldview. Babylon's ziggurats, gates, and tablets weren't separate elements. They formed a cohesive system where architecture, astronomy, and power converged. The Etemenanke's alignment to the stars wasn't just symbolic. It was political, declaring Babylon the axis mundi where heaven and earth met. And though the tower now lies in ruins, its legacy endures in our modern zodiac, our 60-minute hours, even our understanding of planetary motion, proof that Babylon's celestial chessboard still shapes how we navigate the universe today. Buried beneath the Turkish hills for millennia, Göbekli Tepe's massive T-shaped pillars don't just tell a story, they rewrite history. Carved with intricate constellations and predatory animals, these 12,000-year-old monoliths weren't mere totems, they were a Stone Age planetarium. The circular enclosures, arranged like cosmic clock faces, align with the rising of Sirius and the belt of Orion, while certain pillars frame the summer solstice sunrise with eerie precision. What's astonishing isn't just the accuracy, it's the timeline. This predates agriculture, metal tools, even permanent settlements. So why would nomadic hunter-gatherers invest generations hauling and carving 16-ton pillars into celestial alignment? The answer might lie in the carvings themselves. Pillar 43, dubbed the Vulture Stone, doesn't just depict birds, it maps the night sky, with its figures corresponding to specific stars in the Cygnus constellation during the Younger Dryas period. Nearby, a fox carving mirrors the position of Vega, while a scorpion aligns with Libra. These aren't random etchings, they're a coded star chart, possibly tracking the precession of equinoxes, a cycle spanning 26,000 years that ancient astronomers shouldn't have known. Yet the math is undeniable. The enclosure's orientations shift slightly with each rebuilt layer, mirroring the slow drift of the stars over centuries. But Göbekli Tepe's true revolution isn't just astronomical, it's societal. Unlike later megalithic sites tied to agricultural rituals, this was built by hunter-gatherers, suggesting celestial knowledge predated farming by millennia. The pillars' alignment to the winter solstice, a time of scarce resources, hints at a deeper purpose, coordinating nomadic groups for communal gatherings during lean seasons. The site's eventual burial, deliberately backfilled around 8000 BCE, adds another layer of mystery. Was it a time capsule, preserving celestial knowledge for future generations? A ritual closing of some cosmic cycle, modern laser scans reveal even more sophistication. The central pillar's positions match the stars of the Deneb cluster as they appeared 12 millennia ago, while sound resonance tests show certain enclosures amplify frequencies linked to specific celestial events. Some researchers propose the entire complex functioned as a memory temple, where oral traditions about star cycles were encoded in stone. Others see it as a crisis site built during a mini-ice age, its celestial alignments offering hope by predicting seasonal returns. What's undeniable is how Göbekli Tepe shatters assumptions. This wasn't primitive stargazing, it was a Neolithic supercomputer in stone, built by people we've underestimated for centuries. As archaeoastronomers decode more alignments, one truth emerges. Humanity's relationship with the stars began far earlier and ran far deeper than we ever imagined. And somewhere in those carved animals and tilted pillars lies a challenge to rethink not just ancient astronomy, but the very origins of civilization itself. Step into the courtyard of the Alhambra at night, and the stars above seem to dance across its intricate tilework, not by chance but by design. Islamic cities didn't just point toward Mecca, they wove the cosmos into their very foundations. Take Samarkand's Registan Square, where the three madrasas form a perfect triangle mirroring the summer triangle asterism, their entrances aligned to catch the first light of dawn during Ramadan. Or Cairo's Ibn Chaldun Mosque, its spiral minaret not just a staircase to the heavens, but a functional sundial, casting shadows that marked prayer times with mathematical precision. This wasn't just architecture, it was sacred geometry in motion where every angle whispered of divine order. The genius lies in the details. the Alhambra's famed muqarnas ceilings, dripping like frozen starlight, aren't merely decorative. Their complex honeycomb patterns encode advanced astronomical knowledge, with certain vaults designed to echo the phases of the moon. Stand beneath them during a full moon, and sunlight reflecting off the generalized water channels projects celestial patterns onto the walls, transforming the palace into a living planetarium. Meanwhile, in Damascus, the Umayyad Mosque's mihrab doesn't just face Mecca. Its niche is angled to frame the pole star during winter solstice, a subtle nod to the union of earthly devotion and cosmic truth. What made this possible? Islamic astronomers like al-Battani and al-Sufi didn't just study the stars, they engineered tools that blurred the line between science and art. The astrolabe, a handheld brass computer, could calculate prayer times, map celestial movements, and even determine the Qibla direction from anywhere on Earth. Observatories like Marrakech's towering stone sextants tracked planetary orbits with jaw-dropping accuracy, their data fueling star catalogues so precise they guided navigators for centuries. In Istanbul, Taqi al-Din's observatory used massive brass rings to predict lunar eclipses down to the minute, while Cordoba's caliphs kept libraries where astrological treatises shared shelves with Quranic commentaries. This fusion of faith and astronomy birthed innovations we still use today. The wind catchers of Yazd, cooling desert homes by channeling night breezes, were aligned to Sirius's rising, a star long associated with celestial guidance in Islamic tradition. The zodiacal light phenomenon, first documented by Persian astronomers, inspired mosque designs where stained glass windows cast prismatic stars onto marble floors during equinoxes. Even the humble water clock in Fez's Bu Inania Madrasa doubled as a celestial calendar, its gears synchronized to lunar months. Yet perhaps the most profound legacy lies in the philosophy behind these designs. Islamic celestial cities weren't just about precision, they embodied Tawhid, the oneness of creation. When a muezzin's call echoed from a minaret aligned to both Mecca and the North Star, it proclaimed a harmony between earthly worship and cosmic order. Today, as modern architects rediscover these principles, from solar-aligned eco-mosques to star-mapping apps that locate the Qibla, we're reminded that these medieval builders didn't just construct cities. They choreographed a dance between mortar and Milky Way, leaving behind not just blueprints, but an invitation to see the universe as they did, a vast, radiant scripture waiting to be read. Rising above the wheat fields of France, Chartres Cathedral doesn't just reach for the heavens, it pulls them down to earth. Step inside on the summer solstice, and sunlight streams through the stained glass with uncanny precision, painting a specific geometric pattern on the stone floor that aligns perfectly with the labyrinth's sacred path. This isn't poetic coincidence, it's celestial engineering on a breathtaking scale. Every pillar, every arch, every pane of colored glass in this Gothic masterpiece was placed with astronomical intent, turning the entire structure into a colossal sundial and star chart. But Chartres is no outlier. From Canterbury to Cologne, Europe's medieval cathedrals whisper a startling truth. The men who built them knew far more about the cosmos than history books suggest. Consider the rose windows, those radiant circular marvels dominating cathedral facades. At first glance, they're just religious art, but look deeper. The 12 petals of Chartres North rose mirror the zodiac, while the lancet windows below depict constellations visible during key feast days. The south rose aligns with the winter solstice sun, its light activating hidden geometries in the nave that correspond to lunar cycles. Even the labyrinth beneath the west window, once walked by pilgrims on their knees, encodes celestial math. Its 11 concentric circles match the 11-year sunspot cycle, a phenomenon medieval masons couldn't have observed without advanced knowledge. How did they achieve this? The answer lies in the Masons Guild's secretive brotherhoods who guarded astronomical knowledge like dragon's gold. These weren't simple stonecutters. They were inheritors of ancient traditions, possibly tracing back to Egypt's temple builders or the geometric mystics of Moorish Spain. Their tools were humble plumb bobs, compasses, knotted ropes, but their understanding was profound. By using the vesica piscis, a sacred geometry shape formed by intersecting circles, they could calculate solstice angles without modern instruments. Hidden carvings in places like Rosslyn Chapel suggest some even encoded star positions using musical ratios, turning architecture into a frozen symphony of the spheres. The most tantalizing clues lie in the cathedral floors. At Amiens, a brass meridian line runs down the nave, tracking the sun's zenith passages to mark Easter's movable date. In Bourges, shadow-casting obelisks built into the choir stalls functioned as medieval solar computers, predicting equinoxes centuries before telescopes. And at St. Denis, the abbey where Gothic architecture was born, the alignment of saints' tombs corresponds to specific stars in the summer sky, as if the entire building were a terrestrial mirror of the Milky Way. This wasn't just about worship, it was about power. In an age when controlling the calendar meant controlling society, these celestial codes let the church dictate agricultural cycles, tax collection, even the timing of wars. When Pope Gregory reformed the Julian calendar in 1582, he didn't consult astronomers. He consulted cathedral builders whose stone calendars had kept more accurate time than Rome's official tables for centuries. Yet the greatest mystery isn't how they built these celestial churches, it's why they hid the knowledge so thoroughly. Perhaps the answer lies in the very glass they worked with. Chartres' famous blue, a color lost to history, contains traces of cobalt only found in meteorites. To medieval minds, this wasn't just pigment, it was sky stuff, literal fragments of heaven brought down to earth. And in that alchemy of stone and light, they created something more than buildings. They built bridges between worlds, ensuring that even now, centuries later, their star-charted cathedrals still hum with the music of the spheres. The vast Pacific Ocean wasn't a barrier to Polynesian navigators, it was a celestial highway, charted not with maps but with memory, myth, and the unwavering rhythm of the stars. Picture a voyaging canoe cutting through midnight swells, its sails taut against the wind, while a navigator squints at the horizon. He isn't just looking for land, he's reading the sky like a compass, where every star's rise and set marks an invisible path across thousands of miles of open water. These wayfinders didn't need instruments, they had something far more powerful: entire cities and temples built as celestial markers, turning islands into star charts carved in coral and stone. Take the Hawaiian Heiau temples, their massive platforms precisely aligned to the heliacal rising of Pleiades, a signal for the new year and the start of critical fishing seasons. Or Easter Island's moai, those enigmatic stone giants whose backs face the sea, their sightless eyes not just staring inland but framing specific stars during solstice sunrises. Even the simplest fishing shrine on a remote atoll often doubled as an astronomical marker, its entrance catching the first light of Orion's belt to signal peak harvest times. These weren't random placements, they were part of a vast, interconnected system where land and sky conspired to guide sailors home. The real magic, though, lay in the navigators' minds. Without writing, Polynesians developed star compasses, mental maps dividing the horizon into 32 directional houses, each pinned to a star's rising or setting point. They memorized charts listing hundreds of stars and their relationships to currents, winds, and even bird migrations. The Cape Hu Wetu, or star compass, wasn't just a tool, it was a living oral encyclopedia, passed down through generations in poetic verses that encoded everything from wave patterns to the color shifts of distant clouds. Their most ingenious invention, the stick chart, these intricate lattices of palm ribs and shells didn't depict physical islands, they mapped the ocean's feel, showing how swells bent around land masses or how specific stars reflected off lagoons dozens of miles away. A trained navigator could run their fingers along the curves and knots, translating them into star bearings and wave rhythms. Some charts even accounted for stellar drift over centuries, proving these sailors understood precession long before modern astronomy gave it a name. What's truly humbling is how they tested their knowledge. Young navigators were blindfolded and taken to unfamiliar waters, forced to identify their position solely by the sway of the canoe beneath them and the angle of the wind on their cheeks. Only when they could name the stars above without looking and predict their next rising were they deemed ready to guide a voyage. This was celestial literacy at its purest, a fusion of observation, memory, and gut instinct honed over lifetimes. Today, as astronomers rediscover Polynesia's star compass cities using 3D modeling, we're left with a profound question: how much of this sky wisdom has vanished? The last traditional master navigators, like Maupiilug, who guided the Hokulea canoe from Hawaii to Tahiti in 1976 using only ancient methods, were living libraries of a dying art. Yet their legacy lingers in the stones in the way a high-house altar still catches the first light of Macaulay, or how a moi's shadow still points true south on the winter solstice. These silent sentinels remind us that long before GPS, humans didn't just navigate by the stars, they built cities to honor them, turning the Pacific into a celestial chessboard where every move was written in the sky. Beneath the dusty plains of modern-day Pakistan lies a mystery carved in baked brick and precise geometry, the cities of the Indus Valley civilization, where urban planning may have been written in the stars. Mohenjo-Daro's unnervingly perfect grid with streets aligned to cardinal directions doesn't just showcase early engineering prowess, it whispers of celestial intent. Recent studies suggest the city's main thoroughfare points toward the rising of Orion's belt during the winter solstice, while the layout of its citadel mirrors the Pleiades cluster's pattern as seen from the valley 4,000 years ago. This isn't just orderly construction, it's architecture as astronomy, with entire neighborhoods positioned like terrestrial constellations. Then there's the Great Bath, that enigmatic sunken pool lined with bitumen to hold water without leakage. While most scholars see it as a ritual site, its dimensions 12 meters long by 7 wide match proportions found in later Vedic fire altars linked to lunar cycles. Even more intriguing, the bath's northwestern staircase aligns with the setting summer solstice sun, causing light to reflect off the water in a way that projects shimmering patterns onto adjacent walls, patterns that resemble star clusters in Indus glyphs. Was this an early planetarium using water as a reflective canvas to track celestial movements? The undeciphered Indus script only deepens the mystery. Among its 400 symbols, recurring star-like motifs appear alongside what could be numerical notations. One frequently used sign, a circle with radiating lines, bears a striking resemblance to Mesopotamian symbols for the Pleiades, while another resembles the Egyptian hieroglyph for Sirius. Some researchers propose these weren't just decorative marks, but a coded system for recording solstices or eclipse cycles. A handful of excavated tablets show sequences that repeat in groups of 29, potentially mirroring lunar phases, while others depict animals alongside star patterns matching their zodiacal counterparts in later Hindu astronomy. What's truly remarkable is the civilization's consistency. Across settlements spanning 800 miles from Harappa to Dolavira, the same celestial signatures appear. The lower town sectors in multiple cities form trapezoidal shapes matching the winter skies, celestial triangle of Sirius, Procyon, and Betelgeuse. Wells are positioned not just for convenience, but to reflect specific stars during the dry season when water levels were lowest, turning them into natural observatories. Even the famous dockyard at Lothal, with its precise measurements, may have doubled as a giant tide calculator, its gates aligning with stars used to predict monsoon-driven sea level changes. The absence of grand temples or obvious royal palaces suggests something profound. This may have been a society where cosmic order overshadowed earthly power. Unlike Egypt's pharaohs or Mesopotamia's priest-kings, the Indus rulers left no colossal statues boasting of their divinity. Instead, they built cities that silently honored the heavens, their greatest monuments not tombs or ziggurats, but perfectly aligned streets and celestial water tanks. Perhaps their true leaders weren't kings, but astronomer priests who read the sky's whispers, guiding farmers and merchants by stellar cues we're only beginning to decode. As modern archaeologists employ 3D astroarchaeology software to reconstruct ancient skies over Mohenjo-Daro, one question lingers: were these the world's first democratic cities, governed not by men, but by the implacable rhythms of the cosmos? High atop Heimji Castle's gleaming white keep, the warrior astronomers of feudal Japan didn't just scan the horizon for enemy armies. They read the night sky like a tactical manual. The castle's labyrinthine gates and winding paths weren't merely defensive. They were celestial puzzles, aligned so that during the autumn equinox, the setting sun would blaze straight through the main gate, illuminating a hidden marker pointing to Vega, the Weaver star revered in Japanese mythology. This was no accident. From the curvature of Heimji's stone walls to the angles of its arrow slits, every element served dual purposes, deflecting invaders while channeling cosmic energy. Even the castle's iconic layered roofs, resembling a heron taking flight, mirrored the constellation Cygnus, a symbol of protection in samurai lore. Shinto shrines took this celestial choreography even further. At Ai's Grand Shrine, rebuilt every 20 years in an ancient ritual, the main hall aligns with the winter solstice sunrise, its thatched roof absorbing the year's first golden light to purify the sacred space. The shrine's treasure house, positioned precisely beneath the pole star, was believed to draw down heavenly blessings into stored relics. Meanwhile, at Izumo Taisha, the Palace of the Gods, the towering entrance stairway frames the rising of the Pleiades during the Kamairi lunar month, when Shinto deities were said to gather there. These alignments weren't just spiritual, they were strategic. Samurai clans timed military campaigns to celestial events, believing battles fought under auspicious stars would sway the gods in their favor. The evidence is etched into their very armor. Elite samurai wore helmets adorned with crescent moons and star clusters, not as decoration but as celestial armor. A 16th-century suit preserved in Tokyo's National Museum bears engravings of the Big Dipper on its breastplate, a direct appeal to Hachiman, the god of war associated with that constellation. Even their swords carried cosmic codes. Some Tsuba handguards were perforated with precise star patterns, allowing wielders to sight Polaris through the holes as a navigational aid during night marches. This fusion of astronomy and warfare reached its peak with the ninja, whose star-crossed shuriken weren't just throwing weapons, they doubled as pocket sundials, with notches calibrated to measure solstice shadows. What's truly remarkable is how these warrior astronomers recorded their knowledge. Unlike European star charts, Japan's celestial maps were often disguised as poetry or hidden in landscape paintings. The Amaterasu scroll, a seemingly innocent depiction of Mount Fuji, contains subtle dots along its ridgeline that match the positions of key stars during the Heian period. Castle builders used similar tricks, embedding star alignments in garden designs like Nijo castles, nightingale floors, whose chirping floorboards weren't just anti-spy devices, but also marked where to stand to observe specific lunar phases through strategically placed eaves. Modern laser scans have revealed even deeper layers to this celestial strategy. Heimji's supposedly irregular stone walls actually curve to create perfect astronomical sightlines. Certain grooves align with Sirius during the summer, while hidden viewing slots in Matsumoto Castle's moon viewing tower frame Jupiter's Galilean moons, visible even without telescopes to trained eyes. These weren't just architectural flourishes, they were the GPS of their age, allowing daimyo lords to coordinate nighttime maneuvers across vast domains using stellar signals. The legacy of Japan's star fortresses endures in unexpected ways. During World War II, navigators of the ill-fated Yamato battleship used traditional star compasses based on castle alignments when electronic systems failed. Today, Kyoto's Jun Festival still parades floats adorned with 13th-century star maps, preserving codes that once guided armies. And in a quiet corner of Heimji's grounds, a moss-covered stone bears grooves worn smooth by generations of hands, a secret star calculator where castle astronomers once traced the heavens, proving that even in the age of gunpowder, Japan's greatest warriors knew their fates were written not just in battle plans, but in the silent dance of the stars above. At the height of their civilization, the Maya didn't just watch the stars, they wove them into the very stones of their cities, turning temples into celestial timekeepers and plazas into open-air observatories. But as their world began to crumble in the 9th century, something strange happened. Cities like Tikal and Kapon didn't abandon their cosmic blueprints, they doubled down, aligning new structures with even greater precision, as if the heavens themselves held the key to their survival. In the heart of Tikal, the temple of the Great Jaguar's final modifications tilted its staircase to catch the rising of Venus at its most ominous position. The war star, phased the Maya associated with conflict and upheaval. Meanwhile, in Kapon, astronomers carved eerie new glyphs into the steps of hieroglyphic stairway, recording a lunar eclipse cycle that coincided with failed harvests and abandoned palaces. The Dresden Codex, that fragile bark paper book surviving centuries in European libraries, may hold the answer to this celestial desperation. Its famous Venus tables aren't just astronomical records, they're a distress signal. Modern scholars have noticed something chilling. The later entries show slight miscalculations, tiny errors in predicting Venus's movements that would have thrown off sacred calendars by days. In a civilization where kings derived their power from accurately forecasting celestial events, even minor mistakes could unravel the social order. The Codex's eclipse warnings, delicate red numbers counting down to cosmic omens, became more frantic as the classic period waned, suggesting priests were scrambling to maintain their grip on a slipping cosmic order. But the real tragedy lies in the stones themselves. At Karakol, the observatory tower's sightlines were subtly readjusted during the collapse years to track a wobble in Jupiter's orbit, a phenomenon caused by Earth's own axial precession. The Maya, unaware of planetary physics, likely interpreted this as divine displeasure. In response, they built steeper pyramids, hoping to get physically closer to the gods. At Palenque, Pakal's descendants constructed a second temple directly behind his famed celestial tomb, aligning it to a solstice sunrise that no longer matched the original calculations. These weren't just construction projects, they were acts of celestial bargaining, stone prayers flung at an unresponsive sky. The cruelest twist, their astronomy might have been too accurate for their own good. Tree-ring data now shows the collapse coincided with a century of brutal droughts, precisely the kind of event Maya astronomers could predict by tracking Venus-Jupiter conjunctions. Imagine the horror when their own prophecies came true, when the rain ceremonies timed to celestial cycles failed to bring clouds. The very science that once empowered them became a self-fulfilling doom, as rulers lost credibility when the stars promised rain but the skies stayed barren. Yet in their downfall, the Maya left us an astonishing legacy. The same Dresden Codex that reveals their desperation also contains the long count calendar's end date not as a prophecy of apocalypse, but as a mathematical proof that time would continue beyond their crisis. The last astronomers, scratching calculations into plaster as their cities emptied, weren't just recording the end. They were planting a message in the cosmic bottle. The stars would keep turning with or without those who studied them. Today, as archaeologists use LiDAR to discover more jungle-shrouded observatories, we're finally hearing that message, not as a warning, but as an invitation to look up and remember how fragile even the greatest civilizations appear beneath the indifferent stars. Florence's cathedral dome doesn't just dominate the skyline, it captures the cosmos in brick and mortar. When Filippo Brunelleschi engineered his masterpiece in the 15th century, he didn't just solve an architectural puzzle, he embedded celestial mathematics into its curves. On the spring equinox, sunlight pierces through the oculus at precisely the angle he calculated, painting a perfect circle of light on the cathedral floor that aligns with hidden geometric markers in the pavement. This wasn't showmanship, it was a declaration that Renaissance cities would no longer sprawl chaotically, but move in rhythm with the heavens. Rome's urban rebirth took this celestial choreography even further. The Vatican's towering obelisk, hauled from Egypt and erected in St. Peter's Square, wasn't just a trophy of imperial power, it became the gnomon of the world's largest sundial. During the winter solstice, its shadow stretches down the square's cobblestones to touch a hidden meridian line, marking the year's shortest day with theatrical precision. But the real genius lies in what's unseen. Beneath the square, a network of subterranean tunnels aligns with solstice sunrises, their openings designed to channel golden light into crypts below on specific feast days. Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks reveal how deeply this cosmic thinking permeated the Renaissance mind. His sketches of Vitruvian Man aren't just studies of human proportion, they're celestial blueprints. The circle surrounding the figure mirrors the zodiac, while the square represents earthly matter, their intersection mapping the human body as a microcosm of universal harmony. Even his designs for Milan's canals included star-shaped locks whose angles corresponded to constellations, turning hydraulic engineering into applied astronomy. The Florence Cathedral's hidden marvels go beyond Brunelleschi's dome. Its marble facade encodes the golden ratio in every arch and column, a mathematical constant found in planetary orbits. Inside, the stained glass windows depicting biblical scenes double as astronomical markers. The red glass in the resurrection pane filters light to match the hue of Mars during its closest approach to Earth. Meanwhile, Rome's Pantheon, rebuilt during the Renaissance's infancy, remains the ultimate celestial timekeeper. Its oculus projects sunlight onto the interior in ever-shifting patterns, with the noon beam on April 21st, Rome's founding date, illuminating the entrance like a divine spotlight. This fusion of art and astronomy wasn't accidental. Renaissance architects studied Ptolemy's star catalogues as fervently as they did Vitruvius's treatises. When Michelangelo designed the Capitoline Hill's pavement, he arranged its 12-pointed star pattern to mirror the celestial equator, making the entire plaza a stone representation of the heavens. Even seemingly decorative elements like the spiral columns in St. Peter's baldachin, twist at angles matching the helical rising of Venus, a nod to the planet's association with the papal symbol. The crowning achievement of this celestial urbanism might be Rome's Church of Sant'Ignazio. Its Trompe l'oeil ceiling fresco doesn't just depict the heavens, it charts them. Painted constellations match their actual positions on the feast day of Saint Ignatius, while hidden perforations in the dome allow sunlight to strike specific stars on the fresco at predetermined times. Step onto the marked spot in the nave, and the entire illusion snaps into perfect perspective, collapsing the distance between worshipper and cosmos. What emerges from these stones and sketches is a radical idea. Renaissance cities weren't just places to live, they were instruments tuned to the music of the spheres, where every street corner and cathedral spire sang in harmony with the stars. From Brunelleschi's geometric proofs to Da Vinci's coded star maps, these visionaries didn't just recreate classical knowledge, they reinvented it, proving that human genius could indeed touch the heavens. And as modern astronomers rediscover these hidden alignments using laser scans and 3D modeling, we're left with a tantalizing thought. Perhaps the Renaissance's greatest masterpiece wasn't any single building or painting, but an entire civilization realigned with the cosmos. The scorching sands of the Sahara hide more than shifting dunes. They guard the ruins of cities built by starlight. In Libya's desolate Fezzan region, the crumbling stone walls of Garama, capital of the ancient Garamantes, tell a story etched in celestial alignments. These weren't just desert traders, they were sky watchers who engineered their entire civilization around the stars. The main thoroughfare of their capital points unerringly toward the heliacal rising of Sirius, the same star that guided Egyptian pharaohs and Polynesian navigators. But here's the mystery: why would a culture surrounded by endless desert need such precise astronomical knowledge? The answer might lie beneath the sand. The Garamantes didn't just build cities, they sculpted the Earth itself into a cosmic mirror. Their fagaras, intricate underground canals stretching hundreds of miles, twist and turn in patterns that defy simple irrigation needs. Recent LiDAR scans reveal something astonishing. Key branches of this subterranean network align with the positions of Alpha Centauri and Arcturus during the summer solstice. Were these water channels also celestial maps, guiding travelers beneath the Earth as stars guided them above? Even their tombs whisper of celestial obsession. The pyramidal structures dotting the Wadi al-Ajil Valley aren't random. Their entrances face the exact spot where Venus makes its first appearance after conjunction, a phenomenon marking the Garamantian New Year. One particularly well-preserved mausoleum near Jerma contains a star chamber, a domed ceiling painted with constellations where sunlight penetrates through a narrow shaft only during the winter solstice, illuminating a carving of the Milky Way. This wasn't decoration, it was a functional observatory, blending architecture and astronomy into a single sacred science. What's truly baffling is how they sustained such precision in such harsh conditions. Unlike river valley civilizations with predictable floods, the Garamantes thrived in near-total aridity. Their survival depended on reading subtler rhythms, the faint moisture in certain winds, the rare desert blooms that followed specific planetary alignments. Some scholars believe their star knowledge wasn't just for navigation, but for predicting the Saharan version of El Niño, decades-long climate cycles recorded in their rock art alongside depictions of celestial events. The most tantalizing clue lies in their trade routes. Garamantian caravans didn't wander aimlessly. They moved between oases along paths that mirror the celestial equator's angle. At certain way stations, stone circles mark where travelers could sight the North Star through artificial tunnels in the rock, correcting their course by night. A recently discovered stela near Ubauri bears inscriptions in both Garamantian script and Tifinagh alphabet, depicting what appears to be a star map with Sirius at its center, a potential passport for celestial navigators crossing the desert. Perhaps these weren't just cities, but way stations in a vast interstellar network. The Garamonte's sudden decline in the 4th century coincides with a period of extreme solar activity that would have made stellar navigation erratic. As their star clocks failed, so did their civilization, leaving behind ruins that challenge our assumptions about desert cultures. Today, as satellite imaging reveals more buried structures aligned to forgotten stars, we're left to wonder, were these the last astronomers of the sands, guarding secrets not of Earth, but of the cosmos itself? The glass curves of London's Gherkin don't just defy gravity, they catch the sun like a modern-day sundial, its diamond-patterned facade designed to minimize solar glare while tracking the sun's arc across the sky with almost ancient precision. This isn't just sleek engineering, it's the reawakening of a dialogue between architecture and the cosmos, a conversation humanity paused for centuries. From Shanghai's twisting Shanghai Tower, whose spiraling form channels wind currents in alignment with seasonal star patterns, to Seattle's Rainier Square Tower, where embedded solar panels pivot like sunflowers to follow celestial trajectories, our cities are quietly rediscovering the language of celestial alignment. But why now? Perhaps because as we reach for Mars and mine asteroids, we're remembering what ancient builders knew, that the stars aren't just distant lights, they're waypoints, clocks, and silent partners in human ingenuity. Dubai's Mars Science City offers the boldest glimpse of this celestial revival. More than a research facility, it's a prototype for off-world urban planning. Its domed biomess arranged in precise geometric formations mirroring proposed Martian colony layouts. The project's most striking feature, a network of underground tunnels aligned to simulate the red planet's axial tilt, allowing researchers to study how seasonal light shifts might affect future crops and circadian rhythms. It's a modern-day ziggurat not to honor gods, but to prepare humans for life in a cosmos we're determined to inhabit. Meanwhile, in Arizona, the burgeoning Dark Sky City movement, where entire communities adopt lighting ordinances to preserve celestial visibility, has birthed places like Flagstaff, where streetlights glow amber instead of blue to avoid obscuring the stars, and buildings must prove their roof lines won't block key astronomical sightlines. The real innovation lies in blending old wisdom with new tech. Barcelona's Torre Glories, once dismissed as a flashy art piece, actually encodes celestial data in its LED skin. Its light patterns during the summer solstice recreate the exact positions of stars visible during the city's founding in Roman times. Boston's Smart Solar Canopy, a network of solar-powered bus stops, doubles as an urban armillary sphere, casting shadows that mark noon, equinoxes, and even local tidal shifts along the Charles River. Even temporary installations get in on the act. Tokyo's TeamLab Planets Museum projects real-time constellations onto floors that shift underfoot, making visitors literally walk through a living, responsive star map. What's emerging isn't just aesthetic, it's existential. As climate change reshapes our relationship with the planet, architects are turning to celestial principles for solutions. The Edge in Amsterdam, dubbed the world's greenest office building, uses an astronomical algorithm to adjust its thousands of sun-blocking panels daily, saving energy by harmonizing with the sun's path rather than fighting it. In Singapore, the Marina Bay Sands complex channels ancient wind catcher techniques. Its 3 towers angled to funnel cool night breezes indoors while their curved roofs reflect moonlight to naturally illuminate garden spaces below. These aren't just nods to tradition, they're proof that aligning with cosmic rhythms can solve earthly problems. Perhaps the most poetic revival is happening in places where past and future collide. Mexico City's new Planetario Luis Enrique Aero doesn't just house telescopes, its entire structure is one. The building's perforated dome projects sunlight to trace Anelma's figure 8 patterns showing the sun's yearly path on the floor, while its entrance aligns with the zenith passage of the sun, a sacred event in Aztec astronomy. In Cairo, the under-construction Grand Egyptian Museum incorporates a solar alignment so precise that on the summer solstice, sunlight will slide down a glass corridor to illuminate a statue of Ramses Roman II, exactly as it once did at Abu Simbel, bridging 4,000 years in a single beam of light. This isn't nostalgia, it's evolution. As neural networks help architects simulate millennia of stellar movements in seconds, and biodegradable, smart concrete adjusts its porosity based on lunar tide predictions to prevent urban flooding, we're witnessing the birth of a new celestial urbanism. The ancients built to honor the heavens, we're building to join them. From Martian city plans to Earth-bound towers that track equinoxes with algorithmic precision, the celestial chessboard is being reset, not with stone and intuition this time, but with carbon fiber and quantum computing. And somewhere in this fusion of Silicon Valley and the Silk Road, between the glow of touchscreens and the timeless glow of Vega, we might just be rediscovering what it means to build not just on the Earth, but as part of the cosmos. Not every stone that catches the solstice sun was placed there by ancient astronomers. The truth is, our modern fascination with celestial alignments sometimes leads us to see patterns where none exist, a phenomenon called confirmation bias that even seasoned researchers must guard against. Take the case of England's Callanish stones. While their lunar alignments are well documented, early 20th century claims that they predicted eclipses were later debunked when computer models proved the sightlines didn't match historical celestial events. Similarly, some supposed star maps in Egyptian temples turned out to be artistic motifs when analyzed with modern dating techniques. The line between cosmic blueprint and coincidence can be razor thin. Archaeoastronomers combat these pitfalls with mathematical rigor. Before declaring an alignment intentional, they apply the declination test, calculating whether a structure's orientation falls within the narrow window where a celestial body actually rises or sets. At Newgrange, Ireland's 5,000-year-old passage tomb, this method proved its builders deliberately aligned the entrance to winter solstice sunrise. The sunbeam penetrates the 60-foot corridor only between December 18th and 23rd, a window too precise for chance. Contrast this with America's Bighorn medicine wheel, once thought to align with summer solstice sunrise until surveys revealed the key sightline misses by over 5 degrees, a margin no ancient skywatcher would accept. Statistical analysis separates true celestial cities from romantic projections. When researchers studied 200 Mesoamerican structures, only those with alignments falling within 1 degree of celestial events showed consistent ceremonial artifacts, proof that these weren't accidental orientations. Meanwhile, at Scotland's Clogher Cairns, alleged lunar alignments failed statistical significance tests, revealing the Bronze Age builders likely prioritized landscape symbolism over astronomical precision. Modern tools like 3D simulated ancient skies helped too. Laser scans of Petra's monasteries proved some star-aligned doorways were actually positioned for structural stability, their celestial connections exaggerated by early explorers. The most reliable celestial cities share telltale markers, repeated alignment patterns across multiple structures like the consistent solstitial orientations of 7 Maya cities signal intentional design. Associated artifacts matter too. Cuneiform tablets near Babylonian ziggurats detail their astronomical purposes, while the presence of carved star charts or specialized viewing platforms like Choco Canyon's sun dagger petroglyphs confirms celestial intent. Even construction techniques reveal truths. England's Stonehenge builders hauled bluestones 240 miles, an effort only justified if the alignments held profound meaning. Perhaps the greatest myth is that ancient people needed advanced tech to track the heavens. At Chichen Itza, a simple pair of crossed sticks could have marked Venus's extremes, while Polynesian navigators used their outstretched hands, each finger width representing about 2 degrees, to measure star altitudes. The real marvel isn't mysterious technology, but generations of patient observation encoded in oral traditions and stone. As we peel back layers of modern projection, what emerges is even more impressive. Authentic celestial cities built not by superhuman geniuses, but by ordinary people who simply paid attention to the stars above and the earth below. The precision of ancient celestial alignments becomes even more astonishing when you consider the mind-bending astronomical concepts at play. Take axial precession, that slow, 26,000-year wobble of Earth's axis that gradually shifts our view of the stars. Without telescopes or written records, cultures like the Maya not only detected this imperceptible drift but encoded it into their long count calendar. At Chichen Itza, the gradual realignment of the Castillo pyramid staircases over centuries proves they were compensating for precession's effects, adjusting their stone observatories to maintain perfect solstice alignments as the stars themselves seemed to slide across the sky. Then there's parallax, the apparent shift in a star's position when viewed from different points in Earth's orbit. While modern astronomers use this to measure stellar distances, the builders of Karnak's megalithic Rose in France may have exploited it differently. Their 3,000 standing stones, arranged in precise parallel lines, could have served as a colossal parallax simulator. By sighting distant menhirs from shifting vantage points, Neolithic skywatchers might have gauged subtle stellar movements, turning granite markers into a rudimentary cosmic rangefinder. The real puzzle lies in how they tracked these phenomena across generations. At Egypt's Temple of Hathor, ceiling carvings depict not just constellations but what scholars now recognize as records of stellar proper motion, the actual movement of stars through space. The slow drift of Sirius's position over centuries was etched into Denderah's stone heavens, suggesting priests maintained meticulous observational logs spanning lifetimes. Meanwhile, in Choco Canyon, the ancestral Pueblones engineered their kivas with ventilation shafts that doubled as celestial sightlines. On key dates, sunlight would pierce these shafts to strike specific wall niches, creating a multi-generational calendar accurate to within minutes per year. What's often overlooked is the role of simple tools in achieving this precision. The Greek Antikythera mechanism gets all the attention, but consider the humble merkit, an Egyptian plumbline used with a palm rib sighting tool. With nothing more than these, priests could track stars with an accuracy rivaling Renaissance sextants. Or take the Polynesian Lapa, flashes of underwater lightning believed to align with distant islands. Modern research suggests these phenomena, combined with star compasses, enabled navigation across thousands of ocean miles with error margins smaller than modern GPS drift. The most humbling realization: these cultures didn't just observe the cosmos, they anticipated its quirks. The Maya's Venus tables account for the planet's irregular retrograde motions centuries before Kepler explained planetary orbits. In Turkey, the 13,000-year-old pillars of Göbekli Tepe align not to current star positions, but to where they stood during the Younger Dryas period, suggesting oral traditions preserved celestial knowledge across 400 generations. From solstice markers compensating for axial tilt to megaliths calibrated to lunar standstills, Our ancestors didn't just build in harmony with the heavens, they decoded the universe's slowest rhythms with nothing but patience, stone, and an unshakable conviction that the sky's secrets were worth a lifetime of watching. The stones of these celestial cities didn't just mark solstices or track planets, they pulsed with something far more profound, a spiritual electricity, a belief that the heavens weren't just above, but within reach. When the Maya painted their temples with Venus's celestial path, or when Egyptian priests timed rituals to Sirius's rising, they weren't merely observing. They were participating in a cosmic dialogue, one where architecture became ritual and alignment became prayer. Consider the initiation rites held in the heart of Egypt's Temple of Hathor. Beneath a ceiling painted with the goddess Nut swallowing the sun each evening, initiates would lie in a stone sarcophagus positioned so that on certain nights, starlight from Orion's belt would stream through a narrow shaft to illuminate their faces. This wasn't theater, it was transformation. The Egyptians believed the soul's journey mirrored the sun's passage through the underworld, and by aligning their bodies with specific stars, they could literally navigate the afterlife. Similarly, at Teotihuacan, the Pyramid of the Sun wasn't just a monument, it was a conduit. During the zenith passage, when the sun stood directly overhead with no shadow, priests would ascend its steps to catch the sun's energy in obsidian mirrors, channeling it downward to bless the city. The rituals tell us something startling. These civilizations saw the cosmos not as distant and indifferent, but as intimately entangled with human fate. In Angkor Wat, the annual turning of the heavens ceremony required kings to walk a precise path along the temple's celestial gallery, their footsteps synced to the rhythm of the stars. A misstep wasn't just embarrassing, it was cosmically dangerous, potentially disrupting the fragile balance between earth and sky. The same urgency pulsed through Babylon's Akitu festival, where the king would kneel before the statue of Marduk in a chamber aligned to the spring equinox sunrise, reenacting the god's victory over chaos. The timing had to be exact. A delay of even an hour could symbolize the god's displeasure, sparking panic in the streets. What's often overlooked is how these practices blurred the line between science and sacrament. The Maya's Venus tables, for all their mathematical precision, were also sacred texts used not just to predict the planet's movements, but to determine when to conduct bloodletting ceremonies that would feed the star gods. At Stonehenge, the Aubrey holes that tracked eclipses were also repositories for cremated remains, suggesting the site wasn't just an observatory, but a gateway where the living and dead could commune under shared stars. Even the positioning of Jerusalem's Second Temple aligned its Holy of Holies with both the winter solstice sunrise and the path of the Milky Way, merging celestial mechanics with divine revelation. Perhaps the most poignant evidence lies in what wasn't built. In Cusco, the Inca left a single stone in their otherwise perfect celestial city deliberately unshaped, the Sayhuite stone, covered in carvings of constellations and waterways. Archaeologists believe it was a spiritual placeholder, acknowledging that no matter how precisely they mirrored the heavens, some mysteries would always remain beyond human grasp. That humility echoes across the ages, from the unchambered center of Newgrange's Passage tomb, a void aligned to the solstice sunrise, to the empty niche in Cambodia's Pre-Con temple, positioned to catch the first light of Aldebaran but never filled with an idol. These silent spaces speak volumes. They suggest that for all their precision, ancient sky watchers understood something we often forget, that the true power of celestial cities wasn't in controlling the cosmos, but in remembering our place within it. Whether through solstice ceremonies that bound communities together or starlit rituals that dissolved the boundary between Earth and eternity, these alignments were never just about accuracy. They were about awe, an enduring testament to humanity's oldest conviction that if we build with the stars, we might, for a moment, touch the divine. From the pyramids of Giza to the glass spires of Dubai, humanity's dance with the cosmos has never truly ended, it's only changed its steps. These celestial chessboards, scattered across continents and centuries, aren't just relics of forgotten genius. They're waypoints in an unbroken journey, a conversation between earth and sky that began when the first stargazers scratched a line in the dirt to mark the solstice. What's astonishing isn't just the precision of ancient alignments, but the stubborn persistence of that cosmic yearning. Even now, in an age of satellites and quantum physics, we're still building cities that whisper to the stars. We've just traded stone obelisks for solar-paneled smart towers. Consider the quiet revolution unfolding in urban design today. From Phoenix's dark sky ordinances to Singapore's light pollution, reducing urban constellations, modern planners are resurrecting principles that would feel familiar to Maya astronomers or Babylonian priests. The difference, where ancient builders used shadows on stone, we deploy algorithms and LiDAR, but the goal remains eerily similar: to harmonize human habitation with celestial rhythms. The International Space Station's solar panels, adjusting like sunflowers to maximize cosmic energy, aren't so far removed from the solar-aligned temples of Abu Simbel. Both are testaments to a species determined to meet the universe halfway. Yet for all our technological leaps, the ancient celestial cities still hold secrets. Only 5% of Egypt's known pyramids have been studied for astronomical alignments. The Amazon's sprawling pre-Columbian earthworks, visible only from the air, may encode star patterns we've yet to decipher. And beneath the sands of Mesopotamia, thousands of uncatalogued cuneiform tablets likely contain lost celestial math equations that could rewrite our understanding of early astronomy. Every time a laser scan reveals new chambers in the Great Pyramid or a satellite spots geometric patterns in the Kazakh steppe, we're reminded this story is far from finished. So what drives this timeless obsession? Perhaps it's the same impulse that makes us pause on a clear night to trace Orion's belt with a fingertip. In aligning our world with the heavens, we're not just solving practical problems of timekeeping or navigation, we're seeking connection. The builders of Stonehenge, the architects of Angkor Wat, the engineers of tomorrow's Mars colonies, all share a silent conviction that to look up is to remember we're part of something vast and wondrous. As the James Webb Telescope unveils galaxies older than our planet, and archaeologists unearth yet another star-aligned monument, one truth becomes clear: the celestial chessboard keeps expanding. Somewhere right now, a child gazes at the same stars that guided Polynesian navigators, while a programmer in Tokyo designs AI to map undiscovered exoplanets. The game hasn't changed, only the pieces have. So tell us, where should we search next for humanity's star-marked footprints? The desert, the jungle, the ocean floor? Or maybe, just maybe, the answers are closer than we think, written in the alignments of our own neighborhoods, waiting for someone to look